Well, in order to write about life, you first must live it. Well, but you also have to learn how to write, even before that, or along with that, Mr. Hemingway. Wasky Squirrel in the Midwest did a nice little review yesterday of pens that I sent him to try out. And one of his comments, one of his fans commented about how they lost the will to live by looking at my scribbling. And I started to think, I don't want anyone to rush to their razor blades or their pills or to load their shotgun because I scribble so much. But I wanted to explain a little bit what I do when I'm scribbling. I'm one of these people who cannot think and write at the same time. I certainly can't talk and write at the same time. And when I am playing with pens, I tend to be showing how well the pen works in terms of the ink flow and the range of thick and thin lines. I don't know exactly how to describe it other than I'm driving the car up and down streets and turning left and making the tires squeal and slamming on the brakes and having fun test driving it. I'm not driving to the grocery store to pick up groceries. I'm not driving the kids to soccer practice. I might not even be following the rules of the road. I might be going 75 miles an hour in the school zone. It's just I'm trying to show people, viewers, what I think the range of the pen can be. And by doing that, I often have to draw fast or write fast. I often write very large. I know some people, when they write large and they write fast. Other people are very deliberate about how they write. And if I wrote very, very small, and that might be perfectly fine for most pens if that's only the way people wrote. If they write fast, ink might start skipping or pens might start skipping. And if I write big, I might do the same thing. So by writing big, I think I'm able to prove that the pen will work, I guess. Writing small doesn't always work because when I write small anyway, I often write slowly, and I don't, any pen and almost any ink can keep up with me. But I know some people write fast. So part of the reason I write big and part of the reason I scribble is not to cause people to lose their will to live, but to just make sure that the pen is working to the degree that I want it to. But there is something that this person did say, and it's a whole class of people that I tend to be ignoring in my reviews. And my reviews aren't so much reviews as they are experiments in testing the range of a pen. I try not to review it in the sense of saying this is a bad pen or a good pen. I just try to say this pen is a my cat is trying to claw me here, saying, pay attention to me, you're talking to someone else. I tend to aim my my commentary to people that use pens for some sort of artistic purpose, either a calligrapher or a drawer, sketcher. Not so much for the writer, the person who's taking notes, the person who's writing a letter, the person who's my cat is now eating napkins because, Kitty, I gave you your food. He's just tearing apart a napkin because he wants, oh, you're allergic to napkins, are you, Kitty? Crazy cat. So one of the things I'm going to try to do when I write with any pen before I take it out on the highway and go 75 miles an hour in a school zone and scribble and draw is to try to write in a manner that most of you write, meaning you're writing a sentence, you're writing words that make sense, you want to be able to read them, you have to read them. So I don't want to talk about that quick brown fox. I'll talk about my cat. So if I'm going to write within a line here, my cat, Orca, eats paper. Oh, found another piece of paper to kill. Are you going to kill that one first, Kitty? Eats paper. What is wrong with you? This cat is just crazy. One of the things, too, I wanted to do for these sorts of views is move the camera a little closer. Kitty, go away. Down. Is move the camera a little bit closer to the writing, so you can maybe see the nib flex or the pen right. Here I'm writing very vertically. See, here even, you know, I'm getting to the penmanship is angular, G-U-L-A-R, and vertical, T-I-C-A-L. It's difficult for me to write and to think and to talk and to perform all at the same time, which is why scribbles come in so handy, because then I'm not spelling. I really, you know, doing this, if this is all I did is to write a sentence with a pen, I think I wouldn't be conveying enough. Maybe the words are getting in the way. You know, you're paying attention to now you're thinking of cats and paper and angular writing rather than seeing the lines that the pen can make. It's very interesting. I'm learning stuff by doing this. There's a friend of mine his name is Ted, and I do a number of films of him, and he and I speaking about pens, and he's able to write and to talk at the same time and to spell things correctly, and I don't know how he does it because I certainly can't. But watch those, the TED Talks, and I'd like to see if I could channel him. And I know I could, I suppose, write and then record my diatribe, my diarrheic diatribe. I wonder if diarrhea and diatribe come from the same spewing forth word root. Wonder about spewing I I know these little swirls and squiggles interrupt the ability to read something. Wonder about spewing forth. I'm very conscious of all sorts of things right now. One of the things is writing on this book, which is that thick. So my hand is hitting the edge of this thing, and it's really bothering me. I'm so used to writing on a sheet of paper that's flat on the table, and I don't have this curb. It's like driving on the side of the road, and you're an inch from the curb, and your tire keeps hitting it. And if I lift my arm off the table, then I'm requiring more control. Anyway, part of this video this morning is to try to get me to respond or to show pens in just adding one extra little tiny bit of my reviews to incorporate information that would help people that are just buying this pen to write with, not to draw, not to do calligraphy, but to take notes, to write the novel, to write the letter to the editor. Watching Wasky Squirrel use my pens yesterday, I didn't expect him suddenly to go, aha, I get it now. I'm going to now scribble and write really big and write calligraphically. I wasn't expecting that at all, but I thought the nibs I was sending him were significantly different from the pens that he had, or that he owns or he uses all the time, and I thought that maybe a nib that I had would be more flexible or finer than ones he already has, and I don't know if that's the case. I think he writes with a very heavy hand. Well, I'm going to call it a heavy hand, and one presses down more than one needs to make a line, it will automatically become heavier. A good test, here I'm scribbling again, a good test is to rest the pen on your hand like this and move it if you can. It's hard on this one because of the taper. And move it, and where just the weight of the pen itself is making a line. And that was, Schaefer. See, I can't, it's not moving. Come on, there you are. It will move, it will make a line. So applying no pressure or even lifting up on the pen we're just, one little tiny electron of the iridium is hitting the paper, will make the ink transfer from the nib to the paper. It's that very fine line, very fine line, very fine line that a pen can do, which I have a very, very hard time doing when I write small, or even when I write words. When I'm thinking about the words, I'm intentionally holding the pen differently than when I'm doodling or scribbling. When I'm drawing, I don't have that problem at all. I can be very, very light if I'm drawing and just sort of randomly making lines. And even when I'm sketching, I can get this fine line. When I actually, though, have to, here's a really good example. If I'm just, say there's something in front of me that I'm drawing. Oh, give me something to draw here, up here. This bottle of ink. If I'm sketching, I'm just, I'm paying attention. I'm not really thinking about the pen. My hand is moving and my eyes are moving back and forth, and I'm trying to, capture the shape of the thing, the colors of the thing, and my mind is racing from one point to the other, and I'm, moving my hand around up and down like this, and I'm getting a full range of line work. I start with sort of fine lines, and then I later on go in and attack the darker areas or implied heaviness of something by pressing down more. That's a sketch. If I were to do a rendering of this thing, I would more carefully draw it. Okay, I'm making an oval now. This is how I'd sketch an oval. You see how those lines don't match up? Well, that's because it's a sketch. When I plan it, I go slower, and the finest line, I'm trying to make a fine line here, but because it's slower, it's not as fine as that right there. So when I slow down to draw or to spell a word or to think about the word I'm writing, my brain is in a different location and my hands are doing different things, and I end up what do you call it? What am I trying to talk about? I'm automatically tensing up. I'm automatically using the pen differently than I'd use it here. This is very much like scribbling and writing words. There's different parts of my brain are used here. So anyway, what I'd like you guys to do, all of you that are watching this, again, I don't want anyone to lose their will to live, but I also want to see if there's a way where I can add one little element to my descriptor of pens, to description of pens, or my musings about how pens work and why I like this pen over that pen or whatever. What can I add? What would you like to see? What I'm not going to do, though it wouldn't be that difficult, if I were talking about this pen, is this a Craftsman, or is this a Schaefer Crest, or a Craftsman, or it's not. I know that they named different models different names because they could. I know I can include that. I can include the date that the pen was made, roughly. I can include the price that it cost, roughly. But that's something that you can easily find elsewhere and more accurate than I would. I'm using books rather than the interweb to find this information, which sometimes means it's more accurate, because it's easy to make up stuff on the internet where it's a little harder to make it up in a published book. Oh, that's getting less kitty important these days. Anyway, let me know what you'd like to see me add, and it might, what I will try to do is do a sentence or two that is readable, because what that will show is the nib under normal circumstances. No, we're not going to go 100 miles an hour on the freeway when I'm writing a sentence, but we will see how the pen will react and the lines that it makes when I'm in a constricted zone. You know, it might not be as fun driving. Imagine you had to drive all day long in your sports car within a school zone with lights flashing. You know, it's not nearly as much fun, but it is what we often have to do. You know, those car commercials that show this lone car driving along the highway with the ocean crashing at one end and mountains majestically rising on the other side of the road. And here's this sports utility vehicle leaving its carbon footprint and gallons of exhaust spewing out of the back. You don't see that, of course, but you see the sexy car through the sexy landscape. Well, that's not what you're going to do with this SUV. You know, you're going to be sitting in traffic every day in rush hour, going about a mile an hour. And that's what commercials should show. The end.